What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Ellie Hernandez. Ellie, we got an interesting one this week. Week 4. Wow, week 4 is already here. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, man. The season's gone by pretty quickly, and crazy enough, not to get too sidetracked here, but we're gonna get some basketball coming up pretty soon too. I think preseason or whatever it's called in the NBA that starts on Sunday too. So
really,
yeah. So there's a lot of sports going on again, and the NFL season is going by really quickly though. We're literally done with the first quarter after this week, and it's gonna start to get real interesting here. Records are gonna start mattering here pretty quickly.
I'm glad they added that extra game.
Yeah,
the more the better.
Yeah,
interestingly enough, like I'm glad basketball's coming back because, I mean, I know a decent amount of basketball. I mean, I know a lot about football. I'm pretty confident about football, but basketball is like my most profitable DFS sport. That and League of Legends, and honestly, baseball too. I don't know shit about baseball. I just literally stack the lowest owned teams with the highest owned pitchers and vice versa, and it works. That's all you gotta do.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyways, we're talking football. Jaguars at the Bengals. I was at the Jaguars versus Cardinals game.
It's very frustrating first half for you, huh?
Yeah, dude, the ending of that game, or the ending of that half, I would just stand there with my hands on my head like, are you kidding me? Everyone was losing their minds. I mean, it was loud in that stadium. And it was half empty. Anyways, I watched film for the Bengals, that Bengals-Steelers game today, and then I was like, shoot, I gotta watch the Jaguars. Wait, I watched it last week. We're good. I don't need to watch film on that. I was there. All right, man. So how did you do? Oh, yeah, that's right. We did the Cowboys. We were kind of like not super into that matchup, the Cowboys and Eagles. It ended up working out pretty good for us. I mean, I was up there in the standings for the whole night pretty much.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for changing my mind on Zeke. And if anybody's watching this, it's on the Discord. I did update my kind of status there. I decided it would be wise to end up playing Zeke, which of course it did end up being wise. It was cool seeing. Yeah, dude, he was mispriced, and I think if I would have known Tony Pollard was going to get as much run, I would have had a little bit more exposure to him too. It really looks like they're going to start using both guys in a pretty consistent manner, and I don't know if it's too early to talk yet, but it looks like Zeke's been on Twitter reading some of the posts, people talking shit, which I hope so. Like, this isn't the Tony Romo and the old Cowboys. Like, as much as it pains me to say, like, I kind of root for Dak Prescott. I want the guy to do well. I don't necessarily like Zeke, but Dak is kind of like an underdog story quarterback. What was he, third round from Mississippi State or some bullshit like that? Like, nobody goes to Mississippi State intentionally. So like, I think. I hope Dak can do well.
I used to hate the Cowboys, dude, like with passion, and now I kind of find myself rooting for them. I hope nobody hears that.
Unfortunately, no. But it's like it sucks sometimes. But with the NBA, when the Lakers and when those big market teams are good, it is good for sports. Like, you get some weird ass fans coming out of the periphery, but it's exciting football sometimes. But anyways, I digress. We're not talking about anything that matters at this point. So.
Speaking of exciting football, Jaguars going to Cincinnati, and you know what? I actually love these type of games.
Yeah,
this could be a shit show, but like Jacksonville, no one knows much about Jacksonville, so I feel like just by doing a little research, watching some film, you're gonna have an edge on most of the field. Just by like diving deep and trying to find some of these value guys that might get a couple of opportunities in this game. We got a couple of guys, mostly from Cincinnati, but there's a few guys in Jacksonville I want to talk about when we get to the breakdown. But when we're starting out here, it looks like -7.5 home favorite Cincinnati. It's a relatively middle to low total at 46. Look, Jacksonville's not a good team. But I think that we're going a little hard on Trevor Lawrence here. We're going a little hard here. I think that, look, if they get blown out in this game, okay, they might not win a game this year. I get it. But this is their opportunity to come out and show that they're not an absolute shit show. So thoughts on these numbers here. Obviously, most of the ownership's going to Cincinnati. Where can we find an edge? Can we do any 4-2s here with Jacksonville? Can we do 3-3s? And does Jacksonville have even a shot to stay in this game?
Yeah, I definitely think Jacksonville has a shot to stay in the game. I mean, we saw what they could do in the first half against an admittedly biased opinion here, but against a pretty good Cardinals team.
Yeah.
So I was pretty impressed by the way their team kind of played together. And again, it's something to keep in mind for stuff like this is don't underestimate professionals who literally have nothing to lose, right? And to your point about Trevor Lawrence, we are being harsh on him. I mean, up and coming into this game, I think James Robinson had a total of 16 carries in the first two games.
Yeah.
Right. So that implies that Trevor Lawrence is airing it out. Like there's Peyton Manning, or he's not even in the league anymore, but there's like 5 quarterbacks like in the past 20 years that have been effective with more than 40 attempts, 35 attempts, right? Like, I mean, I might be exaggerating a little bit there, but a rookie quarterback learning how to play at the professional game should not be throwing the ball that many times. It just shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
We saw them get a little bit of success going last week when they used their workhorse running back, who, mind you, was undrafted. He was an undrafted rookie free agent last year, something like that.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, and he's good, right? We all know that he's good. So I think you got to keep getting him involved, and Trevor Lawrence has a chance to do something with this team. But also, the Cincinnati offensive line is very questionable. Defense can get you right back into a game that you thought you were out of. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, one thing that jumped out to me being at that game, Jacksonville's offense felt like a high school offense. More specifically, a college offense, Urban Meyer. I mean, I don't know how sophisticated they're getting this year with him. It just felt like there wasn't a whole lot going on behind the scenes in that offense.
Yeah.
And they're pretty straightforward. There's not going to be a whole lot of guys to talk about. They're wide receivers. There's 3 dudes. There's really no reason to talk about anybody else. I think 95% of the snaps go to those 3 guys. And 90+% of the targets go to those guys. There's really no reason to talk about anybody else. So it makes it really easy for us on the Jacksonville side. You target one of those 3 guys, potentially 2. James Robinson hasn't had a good start to the year, but last week against the Cardinals, they really utilized him in the pass game quite a bit. He had quite a bit of targets, quite a bit of receptions. That's where he racked up all his points. He didn't really do great in the run game, but he was getting a lot of targets out of the backfield. So hopefully, if you're a James Robinson fan, you'll see some of that this week. And if you're going to play him in DFS, you're going to hope for that, because I just don't know that they're going to be in a position to run the ball 20 times in this game. Right? I mean, real quick, thoughts on James Robinson this week. We'll get into the running backs, but, I want to talk about him because he might be their best position player on this entire team, skill-wise.
Yeah, no, they absolutely need to give the ball to him. And even if they're down by 2 scores, they need to keep him in the game. He can get involved in the passing game. We saw that a lot. I mean, even the garbage time, he was getting those little dump-off screen passes and picking up decent yards. So they need to utilize probably their best offensive player right now. I mean, and they haven't been. They saw how effective it was when they got him going on Sunday. So I think James Robinson is a great play this week, and I think he's in a good spot. So just even season long, or just as a fan of running backs in general, I guess, I think he's in a good spot to kind of start breaking out.
You got to root for that guy. Undrafted, came out and had a great year last year. You got to root for him. So let's go to injuries here. T. Higgins is officially out. We heard about that a few hours ago, which I like. It helps us out, I think. It makes things really clear for us, for the Bengals. There's going to be some value to talk about here as well. So did you see any other injuries? I didn't see any. We have O'Shaughnessy for Jacksonville, who's out. He's been out for a while. They went out and traded for Dan Arnold at tight end. Which, here we go, another Dan Arnold game for us to be over the field and actually fail.
Like the Panthers kind of paid him too. Like they gave him, I don't know, like I don't know what starting tight end salary is money, but you know what I mean? Like they gave him a decent contract. It's so like I was kind of surprised to just see him trade him away like that. I know,
for a former first round cornerback, right? On Jacksonville.
I have no idea. Like, I don't even remember who they got in the trade. It was just such an obscure, random trade. I was like, all right.
It's incredibly random. But look, it opens it up for they're clearly in need of a starting tight end. Right. And they're going to just plug this guy right in, hopefully. Because O'Shaughnessy is going to come back, and they're probably going to use both of these guys relatively equally. But we know that Dan Arnold's a pass-catching tight end. That's what he's there for. So let's throw him some damn balls. If he's there to catch passes, throw him the ball, especially with a rookie quarterback.
Right.
All right. I think we're good on injuries. There's really not a whole lot to talk about. So let's get into the breakdown. Break it down. All right, let's move over to Fantasy Cruncher here. I'm not showing any proprietary things, just showing salaries and things like that. So let's look at Joe Burrow, 11.6K, coming off a big injury last year. He's looked pretty good this year. And surprisingly enough, he's been running the ball a little bit. Every once in a while, you'll see him run out of the backfield and get some rush yards. Something to consider. You'd think a guy that had a devastating knee injury would be, a statue in the pocket, but he's been moving around a little bit. And then you got Trevor Lawrence at 10.4K. Now look, Trevor Lawrence has been a turnover machine. It's been a little bit of a rough start for him. He plays for the Jacksonville Jaguars. You got to give this guy a fucking break, right? I mean, come on. 10.4K, he's going to be under-owned, and he might be the 8th highest owned captain, a quarterback on a showdown slate. I'm going to go heavy on Trevor Lawrence here. What do you think?
Yeah, I might. This is why we do these shows, because we disagree. I don't know. I think he actually might be the piece that you can fade from the Jacksonville offense.
Okay.
And we'll get to this a little bit later, but I don't think that people are paying close enough attention to the Bengals defense because they're so caught up in the fact that we got Jamar Chase in this offense with Joe Burrow. So I think people are going to sleep on what the Bengals defense can do, and if you start pressuring Trevor Lawrence, it's going to create some bad situations.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Now, the other thing is that Trevor Lawrence is turning the ball over, but this could very quickly turn into like a Jameis Winston type situation, right? Where because you're playing from behind most of the time and you have those turnovers, that you're just airing it out, right? We see that he's getting these insane pass attempts. I mean, what is that? Yeah. 51, 33, and 34. Yeah. Right? And like that's dumb. 51 is absolutely insane. Yeah. So if he's going to throw that ball that much, he was a very efficient quarterback in college. Like at some point, I feel like that those numbers will align. So I honestly think the way to play this might be throw him in some captain or fade him in flex.
Yeah, I agree. He's going to be lower owned in captain. And the biggest issue with throwing a quarterback in captain is it's going to be expensive in most cases, unless it's Davis Mills or Ben DiNucci or something like that. But, Trevor Lawrence he's one of the best, highest rated prospects we've ever seen.
He doesn't just rushing upside, man.
He doesn't just suck like overnight just because he, just give him 2 seasons before you start clowning on him. He plays for the Jaguars. He has a college football coach.
And yeah, dude, that's one thing I want to point out too. Like, let's talk about Urban Meyer. Like, Nick Saban couldn't coach at the NFL level. Like, didn't he just like leave a note and was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing this with the Dolphins"?
No, that was the dude from the Atlanta who like left. Who was that guy? He was like a douchey. He might have just left a note. He might have just left.
Anyways, yeah, Nick Saban, dude, he couldn't hack it. Like Urban Meyer is not just some shrug coach. He's one of the greatest coaches in the history of college football.
Yeah.
So like it's different, kind of making this leap. It's completely different. So there's a very good chance that he's impacting the development of Trevor Lawrence too. I mean, I don't know if Urban Meyer's in this, man. I don't know if his heart is in it. He literally, like, what? He left Ohio State and was just like, whatever, man.
Yeah, he's
And
like,
then
fuck
came
this,
back.
I don't feel good, I'm quitting.
Yeah, dude. And then he just decides to come back and like no disrespect, but like actually kind of disrespect, dude. Like you just got a job because your name's Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
Like, Eric Bieniemy should be the head coach of the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why you didn't hire that guy in the first place if you're trying to fix an offense and bring in one of the top quarterback prospects we've seen in a long time. So, that's kind of where I'm at with it. And I think they're kind of killing Trevor Lawrence. But if he throws the ball 51 times, he'll have the opportunity to get those fantasy points.
And we're talking about a team with, what was the total? It was like their total was at 20 or 19. So just like we said with Davis Mills, like a team with a total of 19 points, Vegas is saying they're going to be low scoring. You got to think the quarterback's going to be involved in some of those touchdowns, and especially if they're going to be throwing the ball 35 to 50 times, which they probably will. Even if he has a bad game, look, even if he throws a couple picks, that's minus 2-3 points. It's not the end of the world fantasy wise. So I'm not worried about Trevor Lawrence. And if he comes in way underowned, I might just lock him. And I know that sounds stupid, but you have to make bold choices in Showdown. You can't just kind of be with the field and expect to come out on top. You just can't do that. You got to make bold choices. So Joe Burrow, 11.6K. Thoughts on him? I mean, I think it's just, he's pretty much a lock. I mean, like, you can't just, yeah. I mean, there'd be one situation where we talk about these teams that are heavily favored, where he comes out and throws 2 touchdowns, and then the rest is just a Joe Mixon type of game. And then he doesn't end up in the optimal because they don't really need him. That could be a situation that could happen. I'm not going to play Joe Burrow captain because he'll be the number one, owned captain, obviously. But when it comes to throw him in the flex, maybe I'll be a little bit above the field, I think, just because there is a situation. I really do think that he could just be game scripted out of this by the third quarter, right? Am I crazy?
No, I don't think you're crazy. I think you can think about fading him, but honestly, I'm probably going to end up with like 70, 80, 90% exposure. He's just, I think I didn't play him I got upset that I didn't, I played him week 2 and he had 13 points and he was on my bench and, in fantasy leagues. And so like, I don't know, man, I've learned my lesson. I do know. Here's the thing: is Jacksonville's defense is very prone to big plays. So like they're going up against a big play offense, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd are in very prime spots to kind of just beat this team up.
Yeah.
So this could easily be 220 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns. But I mean, even look at Sunday, bro, against Pittsburgh. He had 172 yards, but he still had 18 and a half fantasy points.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, that's something you just have to consider. And I mean, the week against Chicago, if he doesn't throw 3 interceptions, he has 20 fantasy points. So I don't know, man, that's with 200 yards. So like for me, it's just at this point, it's just too scary considering he's probably going to be at that 18 to 20 point range, which means you might need the raw points in general for this slate.
Look, I'm not saying don't play him. I like him a lot. He's one of my favorite plays in the whole slate. What I am saying is if you wanted to be different, there could be a way that he could not end up in the optimal lineup. I don't think that Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion, unless he has like an absolutely terrible game and the Jaguars score like 9 points all in field goals, I just don't see how Trevor Lawrence touching the ball every single play isn't going to be somehow involved with some of their scoring. So
now I do have one thing that supports that idea too, though, right? Like to your point, Joe Burrow is also coming off of a very serious injury and he's playing against a terrible offensive line. This really could be Joe Mixon night on a short week.
Yeah.
So it is something to keep in mind. And if Joe Mixon, we'll get there, I guess, in a second, but if Joe Mixon comes in low owned, he might be the play.
Yeah.
So like you are right? Like, Joe Burrow is probably my favorite play on the slate too, but they could just want to protect him against a team that they should beat.
Yeah. So Joe Burrow, for me, a little side note here, anytime TD score and first TD score, I'm putting some money on Joe Burrow this week.
Cool.
With his rushing ability. All right, let's move over to running backs here. So look, Joe Mixon is at 11K. He's expensive this week. We know what Joe Mixon is up to. We know who he is. No Giovanni Bernard this year to steal any of his thunder. He didn't really do great last week. Didn't do great the week before. But, a running back at 10 points, not terrible. That week 1 against Minnesota, 28 points. We know what Joe Mixon can do. He'll have a jump back game, I think. Look, you're looking at, let me move this over so you guys can see. 18 attempts, 20 attempts, 29 attempts, 4 targets, 2 targets, 1 target. I mean, that's a lot of volume. They're going to use him quite a bit. They don't really have another running back that's going to compete. You've got Chris Evans, not that Chris Evans, a different Chris Evans. You've got Chris Evans getting 4% of the snaps. Now, Chris Evans is actually, I think this week, a decent value play at 1,600 for his ability out of the backfield, catch a couple balls and maybe get you 40 yards receiving or something. And P. Ryan at $800 is only getting 16% of the snaps. Joe Mixon is 80% of the snaps this year at running back. He's going to be the guy that I'm going to want to fit into a lot of my lineups, but it's going to be hard at 11K. You're going to have to make a choice between him and one of these top receivers on this team. So how does it go this week, roster construction wise? You putting Joe Mixon at captain quite a bit. You're going to mix him in. You're going to handcuff him at all. How are you handling Mixon?
I don't know if I'm going to handcuff him at all. I think I think there's some opportunities. I like Carlos Hyde on the other side of the ball, and just because of his price. So like I'm willing to play Joe Mixon and Carlos Hyde in the same lineup tomorrow night. So, but I think I will have some exposure at captain. It's going to be a little bit of tough sledding just because of how expensive he is. But if he's under like 8-9% at the captain spot, it's just too prime of a position to not get a little bit of exposure if you can comfortably build. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, because again, like I really think that I'm like 75-25. I think it's 75% chance that it's still just normal offense, and we're going to see Joe Burrow do his thing. I mean, even then, Joe Mixon is still going to get 20 carries and probably 4 or 5 targets. So, right, like there's still that volume, but. Again, Joe Mixon's really good, dude. Like, he can break out at any point, and we've seen him put up, 2-3 touchdowns and 150 yards. So, if that happens, you have to have him at captain just because he will be the prime scorer.
Just like Zeke last game,
right? And then look, to your point, man. Like I think when we get to the build, there might be some cheap random dudes on Jacksonville that we're taking flyers on so that you can maybe do Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Joe Mixon, and then still maybe even get Trevor Lawrence. I have no idea, but we'll figure it out. But I think that there might be some ways to get there with some of these cheap guys that we have available. But also, like, I'm comfortable just going Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon in the running back for Jacksonville Jaguars, right? You're getting all the offense that way, and then you're hoping that Trevor Lawrence can air it out and score some points.
I think the value, in my opinion, that I'm comfortable with playing all comes from Cincinnati. There's a lot of good options over there. 2 guys that I will consider playing a little bit, I'll keep them in my player pool, is Chris Evans at 1.6K and P. Ryan at 800. Maybe they get a random goal line, carry or catch. I'm not going to go heavy on them, obviously, more than 1 or 2 lineups potentially, but it's worth noting. Like, don't just automatically X them out if you're doing, a 20 max or 80 lineups or whatever it is. So let's move over to the other side of the ball, running backs. James Robinson, 9,400. He's the big dog here. We know that. Now, there's a lot of talk of, Carlos Hyde is taking some of his snaps and this and that. Yeah, he is, but not enough that I'm going to be scared away from James Robinson, especially after having a good week last week. I think if you're the Jaguars, you got to get this guy the ball. He's looked good out of the backfield. He's had 15 targets this year and 12 receptions. And that's with him not doing good. So, last week helped. But at 9,400, I think he's going to be under-owned to what he should be. I think a lot of people are going to go with Carlos Hyde because look at that price tag, $1,800. And I like Carlos Hyde as well in this game. The only issue is look, for the season, Hyde is only getting about 30% of the snaps. But that could be enough at 18%. So you're going to get any Robinson-Hyde lineups together. Who's your favorite guy here considering the price?
Carlos Hyde's probably going to be that guy that we're just stuck with like we were the other night, where I don't even remember who it was, but it's just like, all right, well, we're playing this guy because he's right in that price range. Yeah. 1,800, I'm comfortable with him. And like the next step down would probably be Jacob Hollister, and then from there you're looking at random dudes. Like that's kind of the comparable pricing, and I don't mind Carlos Hyde, right? He's going to have to play some snaps because James Robinson isn't going to be on the field for 70 offensive plays. Yeah, especially if we're thinking that they're going to be playing from behind a little bit. It's going to be a fast-paced game for the Jacksonville offense, and he's going to need to take a breather. The other thing that Carlos Hyde does is give you a big body for your shitty offensive line to try and protect your franchise quarterback. So, I think 30% field time, playing time is pretty much in line with what I expect, and I think he's a decent play. But, I think this is a slate that you can afford to get weird. I wouldn't do this normally, but this might be a slate I'd be kind of comfortable with. James Robinson, Carlos Hyde, and then even having Joe Mixon on the other side. Yeah. And really the reason being is Carlos Hyde is essentially a punt that has some upside. Mm-hmm. So I'm really not even counting him as part of the handcuff there. And then James Robinson, I mean, he's probably their best offensive player. He just needs to get involved in the pass game, which he knows he will. So it's kind of like having a hybrid wide receiver. So I think, I definitely think it's viable to play both these guys. And I give the edge a little bit to Carlos Hyde, again, just because of his pricing. He's going to be needed to get decent builds so that you get exposure to the guys that you need.
I think if the closer this game gets, the more we see Carlos Hyde. And the bigger of a blowout, the more James Robinson is going to be in there catching the ball. Usually it's the other way around. The backup running back is getting all the receptions out of the backfield, but James Robinson is that guy. Okay. Let's move over to wide receiver here. This is going to be interesting. So like we said before, Marvin Jones Jr., Laviska Shenault Jr., DJ Chark Jr., these guys are the 1, 2, 3 options. There's not a lot of other. You don't expect Jamal Agnew to get 3 targets. Don't expect Treadwell or Devin Smith. Don't
expect them to get any targets.
I mean,
they don't
it's
have
true.
Any on the year.
It's true. Don't expect them to really see much of anything. Jones, Laviska Shenault and Chark are the guys. Focus in on them, and I think you have to have one of them in every single one of your lineups. That's my opinion. If they're going to be down by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and Trevor Lawrence is going to be throwing the ball 35, 40 times, who the hell else is going to get those targets? James Robinson? Dan Arnold? It's going to go to these 3 guys. It's going to be spread out quite a bit. Let's look at their targets this year. So Marvin Jones, 28 targets, 17 receptions, 24% of the target share. DJ Chark, 22 targets, 7 receptions, 19%. Those 2 guys each have 2 touchdowns. And then you got Laviska Shenault with 20 targets, 13 receptions, and 17% of the target share. He doesn't have a touchdown this year. But when it comes to Shenault, I think he's your wild card here at 6,600. And sorry, I forgot to mention Marvin Jones is at 8,600 and DJ Chark is at 7,200. They're all reasonably priced. You could fit multiple of these guys in your lineups and not even blink an eye. But Shenault is your wild card. He's the kind of guy that's his air yard. I mean, he only has 8% of the team's air yards, and compared to Marvin Jones at 30% and DJ Chark at 32%. They're just not throwing the ball to him. They're throwing him short little passes. They're throwing him screen passes. Expect a couple of end arounds, maybe a couple wildcat, something weird with Shenault. So that makes him interesting. And I personally think he'll be the lowest owned, but everyone's excited about him because he's kind of this dynamic player. So what do you do here? Marvin Jones, we know about him. We know Marvin Jones, on the Lions. We know his fantasy output. He's hit or miss. But when he hits, it could be 40 fantasy points. So talk about all these guys for me.
Yeah, man, I actually don't think Marvin Jones is hit or miss this year. We know he's going to get the targets. He's Trevor Lawrence's favorite receiver right now. And he was being covered by Byron Murphy on Sunday. So like you add a touchdown to his actual stats here, and he has the same output for the first 3 weeks of the season. So that touchdown was the only thing that he was missing last week. Was I love Marvin Jones. I've always been a fan, even when he was in Detroit. So not that was a long time ago, but anyways, I'm a fan of him. But to your point, dude, DJ Shark is obviously the number 2. And then Laviska Shenault, at his price, I'm probably going to end up having a healthy exposure to him. Excuse me. I'm curious to see what his ownership is. God damn it. Got the hiccups in the middle of nothing. Anyways, excuse me. So DJ Shark at 7,200 is going to be kind of the middling guy here, obviously. But I want to see where his ownership comes in at. I think people are just going to drop down to Laviska.
Yeah, he's going to come in then lowest.
Yeah, and then or hop up to Marvin Jones. But again, we saw DJ last year, man. He tore it up, and it's not like he's had a bad season this year. He had 12 targets in week 1. Like, I just don't think that these are quality targets that he's getting. But I mean, if he converts any of these, like, he's doing okay, dude. So yeah, I think that he's in a good spot too, especially if he comes in lower owned. As far as the other guys, I won't touch anybody else on this wide receiving core.
I think one thing to note here, I'm not going to do it, but Jamal Agnew at 1,200. They might think about using him in other ways. I don't think they really need to, but we saw the kick six. He had a kickoff return, I believe, or it might have been a punt return. I apologize, but I think it was a kickoff return the week before. Jamal Agnew, he's a dynamic, fast player. And you pair him with the Jaguars defense, you're doubling down there on a kickoff return or some sort of special teams play. I'm not going to do much of that, but it's worth mentioning. And he doesn't even have any stats recorded. That's weird. All right, so do you agree with me that you should have one, if not 2 of these guys in pretty much every one of your lineups?
Yeah, I will. I'll probably have one. The only reason I wouldn't is if I was doing like a 4-2 with Cincinnati, and my only 2 were James Robinson and Trevor Lawrence.
All right, so T. Higgins is out. We're moving over to the other side. Look, Tyler Boyd, 7,400. He's led this team past 3 seasons in receiving. You got Jamar Chase, who has caught a ton of touchdowns this year, man. The whole narrative about him not being able to catch balls, NFL balls, because what are the stripes different or something? Yeah, that's BS.
It was made up, dude. It was entirely made up. He came out, he's like, bro, that's not what I said. I said that... He said the ball is different, and they asked how it was different. I said this one has white stripes and the other one doesn't. Like, and now they're saying I can't see it. Like, what the hell is that?
That's crazy. Clearly wrong. He had one hell of a catch last week in the end zone, but he's priced up. He's at 10.2K. So these are clearly the top 2 options here. We got Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase. Now, what we can start to talk about here is Auden Tate at 400 because we have T. Higgins out again this week. You got Mike Thomas at 600. I don't even know why Trenton Irwin is selected here. I'm going to uncheck him. I'm definitely willing to consider Auden Tate and Mike Thomas. Auden Tate at $400 might be the value guy this week. Do you like Auden Tate?
Yeah, man. I do. I don't know. I don't know who they like more, Thomas or Auden Tate. I know that Auden Tate got some opportunity last year, and he should have some opportunity on Sunday, but or not Sunday, Thursday. They're not playing the Steelers defense too. So he had 1 target, 14 yards. I think he will have some opportunity tomorrow night. And $400, it's not the if you get 0, you get 0.
Yeah, you can still cash. I mean, Auden Tate got 57% of the snaps last week without T. Higgins. And Mike Thomas only 21%. So we know that Auden Tate's going to be on the field more. If I had to choose between one of them, I'm going Auden Tate all the time. But Mike Thomas can easily catch a touchdown tomorrow. Either one of these guys can impact this game. And at $400 and $600, you're going to have to do this if you're going to want to fit in Jamar Chase at captain or one of these guys, expensive guys in a captain. highly consider playing Auden Tate first as your first option, and then sprinkle in Mike Thomas. I think it's a good option. Now, when you look at targets, look, he only got one target and he got one reception, but he did have a nice long reception. I think it was probably 20-something yarder, negated by a holding call, which didn't really impact the play at all. So, something to consider there. If you had to choose between... Sorry, dude, I have like a frog in my throat. If you had to choose between Boyd and Chase, who are you going with?
That's tough. I like Boyd a lot just because he's priced at 7,400. He's probably going to be popular as hell. So if that's the case, then I'm going to try and make my way up to as much Chase as I can get. But either guy is the guy, right?
Yeah.
Tyler Boyd was the guy last year. Until T. Higgins kind of took over a little bit. And Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase. He's balling out. So I think you need to have one of these guys in pretty much every lineup.
Yeah.
So you just need to figure out how you're going to get there. If you have the salary, maybe you go to Jamar Chase. If not, you go to Tyler Boyd. But no spoilers. But I do like Tyler Boyd a lot.
Yeah, 7,400, man. It's hard to get over that. And if you put both of these guys in a vacuum and there's no pricing, I still think you have to go with Boyd, even though Chase has a higher ceiling.
I don't even know that's true, man. Tyler Boyd, we've seen him go off for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I definitely think he's capable of crushing.
Yeah, that's true. And if they're going to pass the ball a lot, if this is going to be like a higher scoring game, you got to expect Tyler Boyd to get 9 to 10 receptions in this game.
Yeah.
All right, so I really do think that you should consider putting one of these two guys, Boyd and Chase, one of the 3 wide receivers from Jacksonville, and then sprinkle in one, maybe two of the quarterbacks, and then try to find maybe Joe Mixon instead of Lawrence or Joe Mixon instead of Burrow, something like that. I think when we start building here, we're gonna find out real soon what it's gonna look like. So let's go to tight ends. So CJ Uzomah, he almost won me a lot of money last year before he got injured. Let me actually look. I had him at captain. What was his last game? Against Cleveland, week 2. He had 14 fantasy points, and he was cheap as hell. I stacked up the rest in flex. He had a touchdown, 42 yards, and then he got injured in the 4th quarter. And I was in first place going into like the last minute, even with him injured in that game. So I didn't forget about him. I think a lot of people have forgotten about him, but he hasn't really started out well. His injury, obviously, maybe it's just taking him a little bit of time to come back into it. I don't think CJ Uzomah is George Kittle or anything, but you got to think about him at $4,000. He's a clear number 1. He's a big body that can catch touchdowns in the red zone. I'm highly considering Uzomah because I think he's going to be around 10% owned. Drew Sample, we've seen last year he had some decent opportunities. You look down here, a couple double-figure games here, and the dude's $200. You got to talk about Drew Sample. I actually like Drew Sample as one of these random bullets that you can throw into the Millie Maker or something. So thoughts on these two guys?
Yeah, I don't mind them. I'll probably have anywhere between 5 to 15% total between the two. 4K is a little pricey for CJ, but again, I mean, if he ends up, Dalton Schultz was what, 5,600, and if you didn't have him, you were screwed.
Broke the slate.
Yeah, so the pricing relatively, relatively speaking, I don't know how to say that. Anyways, you might just need to play him, and if you land there, you land there. So I'm okay with it. Drew Sample, $200 again, just as a pure punt play. If you get 0 points, you get 0 points. But if it gets you to Jamar Chase instead of Tyler Boyd, then sure, go for it, right? Again, I maybe have 1 or 2 lineups that'll have a little bit of exposure to him, but I'm not going to get crazy with it.
So in that Dallas game, I had Kerryon Johnson in. It was $200. He didn't even see a snap in that Monday night game, and I still was in the top 3 or 4% of all lineups in the Millie Maker. And he got 0. So it's it's not a death sentence to have a dude at 200 who doesn't really do much. It helps if he does, but you can probably still min cash or profit. You're not going to win anything, but don't be scared to throw these really cheap guys in and just try it out.
Especially in things like the Millie Maker. The more entries there are, the more you have to do stupid shit to get different sometimes. Just be thoughtful through it. Like, does it make sense?
Yeah, exactly. So Dan Arnold's 4,400. I'd rather go Uzoma, to be honest. Dan Arnold's 4,400. Hasn't really done much. He was a former Cardinal, didn't do shit there. He hasn't had a touchdown in how long? Let's see. I guess last year he did have a few touchdowns, so I'm wrong about that. So he had one game where he had 2 touchdowns, but he's I had high hopes for him. I just don't see it this year with him doing great. I hope so. I hope he comes in his first game and he gets 20 targets, but it's probably not going to happen. So Jacob Hollister at 1,000 is also an okay option. I don't think I'm going to touch any of these guys. What do you think?
I like Jacob Hollister. He had 6 targets last week, man. I think that he's probably going to end up getting some run. Chris Manhertz, I'm pretty sure, is a blocking tight end. I think he just stands on bodies. So I don't want any Dan Arnold, but at $1,000, I don't ever mind playing Jacob Hollister as long as he's not over like 1,200. I used to get a little run with him at Seattle, but if he doesn't need 9 or 6 targets. Like if he gets 4, right, I think he'll be fine. And again, he's not going to have Buda Baker covering him in the secondary, so it'll be a little easier to probably convert some of those targets. So again, at $1,000, I don't hate him. I'll have a little bit of exposure. And again, just because there's so much value on this slate, though, like I'm not going to be overexposed to any of these guys. This is just a dart throw that I'm comfortable with based on his potential output from last week.
Kyle Uswich, I was very confident with him as being the best value guy, in my opinion, last week.
Yeah.
I don't have that same vibe this week when it comes to any of these guys. I just really don't. Do you have a guy that sticks out to you? I mean, Auden Tate is probably that guy, but I'm not super comfortable with him.
I mean, right now, honestly, like it's probably Jacob Hollister or Carlos Hyde, just because Jacob being a deeper reach, just because I'm looking at only 1 week of performance, right? So I definitely think that there's some opportunity for him to get involved. But again, Carlos Hyde, he's going to be on the field 30% of the time, most likely, just so that he can spell and pass block a little bit instead of James Robinson. So I definitely think that he's going to be a cornerstone of a lot of builds. The only reason I may think about coming off him is if, he's just too insanely priced or projected for ownership.
Ownership, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
So kickers... Josh Lambo is not in. Who do you have on RG for the kickers here? Both of these guys are projected for 0. I know that Josh Lambo isn't even playing this week.
Yeah, I don't have anybody. It's probably Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
I wonder how that would work. Like if you had your quarterback back there, how would the scoring be for fantasy? If something like that happens, whoever that is if you're an offensive player getting points for that and kicking, that's your captain.
That'd be crazy. It'd be like an Otani thing. Oh, you don't get points for kicking this game. That'd piss me off.
Dude, I don't get how they can't fix that. Like, what do you mean? Like, either play him in the outfield or play him as a pitcher. Like, just
you should get all those points.
Yeah, like how hard can it be just to add Otani to pitchers and batters?
Well, you know what really, really upsets me is when National League pitchers get hits and they don't get any points for that. That's a strategy. You can target National League pitchers a little bit more if you think that they can get a couple hits in the game. I don't understand why they would do that. I think it just adds another wrinkle that it makes it interesting. Anyways, we're going off on a tangent here. I don't care much about the kickers like usual. I'll be with the field or under. This could be a situation where Jacksonville stalls in the red zone and gets you a couple field goals. But we saw Josh Lambo miss 2 extra points last week. So, not that Josh Lambo's playing, but kickers are kickers. Unless you're Justin Tucker or some of these top
Matt Prater.
Matt Prater or Gano. I'm probably leaving a few guys out, but I don't care about these lower end kickers. They don't matter to me at all. They could easily have 0 attempts at real field goals and just get you 3 or 4 extra points. I don't really care too much. Throw them in your cash lineups, especially the Jacksonville kicker, whoever that may be. So, don't go playing Josh Lambo. Make sure you don't have him in your lineups. Figure out who's going to play on Thursday. But do you agree with me on this?
Yeah.
Screw the kickers. Screw them.
I might have a little bit just in case they stall out, but I'm not prioritizing them ever.
So I think the Bengals defense is going to be overly popular, and for good reason. They looked pretty good against the Steelers last week. They shut them down pretty good. And look, they're playing against the Jaguars. Last week, Cardinals defense absolutely, crushed it. What do they have, 18 fantasy points last week?
It's something like that.
So I think you can sprinkle them in. I just think that 5,600 and probably 25% ownership, maybe 30% ownership, like we've been saying, they usually just, these high price, high popularity defenses usually just don't pay off. Yeah. Now, when I say usually, I'm talking about one game slate here. They could easily get an interception for a touchdown or get a couple fumbles, get a couple sacks. That's what you need for a defense at that price. You need, something out of them, not just holding them to 14 points.
No, I do want to point something out, though, too. Like, even with that said, that's still not a guarantee that they'll be in the optimal. Because what did we see on Monday night, right? We saw both defenses score.
Yeah.
Philly wasn't in the optimal. I mean, yeah, they got their asses kicked. But, that is very possible. Like, I mean, you could get a lucky touchdown out of the Jacksonville defense and them still lose 41-14 or whatever.
Yeah,
so
and they only score like 7 points or something, something like that.
Exactly. So, like, I mean, again, like, you really got to pay attention to this. And honestly, the opportunity cost of 5,600, right? Like, I'm more comfortable with Jacob Hollister getting 1.2 points at 1,000 than the Cincinnati defense getting 5 at 5,600, right? They need to pay off if you're paying for him at that, because I'd rather try and get up to Tyler Boyd for what, 2K more? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, totally.
I'll have some. Like, don't get me wrong, I'll have some. I think the Bengals do have an opportunity to get a bunch of sacks and probably some turnover or takeaways because what's his face is throwing picks like Jameis Winston. But I mean, again, like, you still got to pay off a certain amount. You need like 4 picks if you're going to do it without a touchdown, and you need 4 sacks. That's 8 points, and then hope you don't give up. If you score 1 touchdown, dude, you go from like 10 points to 4. Like, it's insane how the defensive scoring works. Yeah. So like, be very, very attentive to what you're doing here. And like, I spent way too much time talking about the defense. I probably won't play too much of them. They will be in game stacks that is specific to blowouts.
Hear me out. I like the Jaguars defense here more. Now,
sure.
The chances of them doing well are very low. But look, Joe Burrow.
Sacks, bro.
Joe Burrow he hasn't completed a 16-game season. He's still in his rookie season if you think about it when it comes to number of starts. He could have some turnovers, could have some sacks. And look, at the end of the day, this is still the Cincinnati Bengals. This is not the Patriots. This is not the Packers. This is not a good franchise. The Bengals, I don't think that they're a playoff team this year, and they're probably going to make some mistakes in this game. Jaguars have no pressure. In my opinion, they have no pressure coming in. Everyone thinks they suck. They're going to come out loose on national television. I think the Jaguars defense can outscore the Bengals defense. That's my bold take.
I don't even think it's that bold, man. I mean, why did Joe Burrow get hurt? Because his offensive line sucks. That was a year ago, man, and they did nothing to fix that. So
they didn't get Penny Sewell. They got Jamar Chase, which, I mean, look,
right?
Nothing wrong with that, but you got to keep your guy, upright.
Right. You can't have just because you have a wide receiver doesn't mean your quarterback's gonna be able to throw to him. So like, there's gonna be some opportunity. They got to Kyler Murray, right? They were aggressive last week, so I definitely think they have an opportunity to get to Joe Burrow.
So this is a perfect segue. Fate of the night. Bengals defense. We don't really need to talk much about it. The main reason why, for me, it's obvious: the price and the ownership. That's all it is. If they were low priced and low owned, they wouldn't be my fate of the night, right?
Yeah.
So, anything else to add to this, or you wanna hit up our captain choice here?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right, let's do it. Let me do my producer stuff here.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
We're crowning their ass on DraftKings. Ellie, Tyler Boyd, great choice. He's going to be popular, but at that price, $7,400, you throw him in a captain. Man, he has such high upside.
Yeah, dude, I love him. I think he's going to be in a great smash spot. I think the only reason I might come off of him a little bit is just if he does get too much love as far as the ownership projections go. As we get closer to lock, then maybe I might think about shifting off a little bit. But again, he's priced too nicely to not have some decent exposure there. Either way, he's probably going to be in every one of my lineups.
So for me, Trevor Lawrence is strictly based on ownership. He's potentially the 7th highest owned captain. Now look, one thing we need to talk about here, since we're talking about captains, is the captain, amongst the top 10 guys or something like that, it's pretty compressed. Like, we're not seeing these big jumps like we do with Green Bay and with Dallas, where you go from 30% ownership down to 12. We're talking about there's 2, 4, 6, probably 6 guys that are over 10%. And the top guy is at, Joe Mixon is probably under 20%. So everything's very compressed. So I think things can change. And I think the ownership projections are going to be tough to nail this week from these companies. They do a really good job usually. But it's going to be hard to nail it this week. If Trevor Lawrence is coming in like at 5, 6, 7th highest, you just got to consider him. I think he's going to have a breakout game one of these weeks. I don't know if it's this week, but it could be. And with that ownership, I'm going to try him out. A quarterback on a team that's going to throw the ball 40 times or so, I'm going to try that out. What do you think about Lawrence at captain? Do you have any interest?
Yeah, man, I like him at the captain spot. I think it makes it easy to fade him for leverage on the other side if you have somebody else a captain. So I think I'll be hedging a little bit of my plan with having some Lawrence at captain myself.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
I don't know why I played that, but it was fun.
It's always funny.
Wait, the Bears are what we thought they were. They're what we thought they were.
Now that's always funny. Okay.
That is.
Because the Bears are who we thought they were. They suck ass. All right.
54 total yards on Sunday.
So who do you want to start with here? Let's just optimize. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Yep, there's Tyler Boyd as the opto.
Who the
fuck is McPherson? Oh, it's a kicker.
We're both saying the same shit.
Who the hell is that?
All right,
I don't hate this at all, actually. I mean,
I'm not playing that.
Minus the kicker, I'm not playing this, but I don't hate it.
While we're here, I want to do something. Swap out Carlos Hyde for Jacob Hollister.
Okay.
We'll just use Tyler Boyd as the captain.
Yeah, let's see. Hollister. So you like Hollister this week?
Yeah, man.
I don't blame you. I'm not saying it's a bad choice. So 4,900.
Can you switch Mixon to Chase?
Yep. Where the hell is he at? 10.2K. There he is. 5,700.
Oh, sadly, was with
Bengals defense.
Sure.
That's 4-2. Not bad. Lawrence and Hollister.
Well, so the problem with this is that's damn near the same thing that was the optimal build on Monday, pretty much, right? Yeah. You had the quarterback and then Zach Ertz. Jalen Hurts, Zach Ertz, then you had the defense, and instead of Tyler Boyd, it was the running back. So very similar build based on price, right? Tyler Boyd was just under what Zeke was, so you had to build that way to take it down.
And by the way, Ertz.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not going to toot my own horn. I'm not. We have bad takes, we have good takes. I'm not going to call them all out, but come on, Ertz at 2,200. Come on.
And he was just fitting into lineup so well too.
I
mean, go for it. 30%. That's not even. He probably should have been closer to 40, 45. But anyways. All right. So I want to try one where we fade Trevor Lawrence.
Okay. So Joe Burrow. Do you want
James Robinson's got to be in there.
James Robinson and one of the receivers. Don't you think?
Let's go with Marvin Jones and just see where we're at.
Yeah. The safest option. 4,600 ish per.
Who's
position.
one throwing out in Tate?
Yeah, we absolutely should. I think I'm going to get a lot of Auden Tate. 8,900. Marvin Jones, Tyler Boyd. Why don't we go
He's
down?
our captain.
So why don't we go down from Marvin Jones to Shark?
I think
That leaves us 10.3K. Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
4-2. Cincinnati.
I really like that.
Take a photo of this. Here, hang on. Let me take a photo of this.
And here's the thing: is I know people are like, well, you got 3 receivers in there for Joe Burrow. First of all, yes, we do.
Who cares?
And second, second, Auden Tate's a pure punt, $400, right? If he catches 2 passes for 30 yards, he literally just way paid off what we needed him to do.
You don't need Auden Tate to score 3 touchdowns. You don't even need him to score a touchdown. It would be awesome, but if he gets you 4 receptions for 40 yards and the rest of your lineup does well, I think you're going to be feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
So I think
like
this
this
is the way to do it, dude. In my opinion, I think you punt on one of these guys, like the Tates or the Hollisters or the Carlos Hydes.
Let's do one more while you're talking about that, dude. Take DJ Shark and go to Visca.
Okay.
7, Auden Tate. Yeah, go to Jacob Hollister.
Yeah, there you go.
So if you want a 3-3, I mean, that's still a safe play as well. Like, you're not putting too much on Trevor Lawrence, so you're not losing out by having him out. But if he, same thing with the Auden Tate thing. It's just a little more 3-3. So I think there's definite builds. And to your point, like, you got to have one of these pass catchers in pretty much every one of the lineups from Jacksonville.
I'm pretty confident. that's not a bold take, but like I'm going to set a rule, and I don't expect to have any less than one of these guys, and I'm going to try to fit 2 of them in if I can. Especially since I'm higher on Lawrence, I'm going to have more than the field on Trevor Lawrence in the flex. I want to get 2 receivers with him.
And I mean, even then, don't overthink it. Like, if Trevor Lawrence throws the ball 25 times, we know he's not throwing to anybody but these 4 people, and that 4th guy is James Robinson. So like I mean, I don't know how to explain it any other way. You're going to get at least 5 to 7 targets. So I mean, it doesn't hurt anything.
So hear me out on this. Let's do a Trevor Lawrence. Let's fade Burrow with Boyd at the captain. I know it's a little.
You don't have to convince me, man. I'm down. I like it.
And then you know what that means? Joe Mixon. And you could do something like a Chris Evans. I don't want to, But look, they said his name a lot in that game. He actually had some opportunities in that game last week. So let's go with. Do you want to go with Chenault, Visca, or do you want to go with Chark or Jones?
Let's go Shark and Jones.
Dude, I love it.
Can we?
Why not?
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah, we can. Throw Carlos Hyde.
Oh, we're short by $100.
Oh, Jacob Hollister, Auden Tate. I don't give a shit. Literally any of those guys would be fine in there. Yeah.
Evans, Agnew, Hollister, P. Ryan, Mike Thomas, Auden Tate, whoever. Now, this is why I like to hand build. For a game that I don't care too much about, I'll just I'll crunch it. I'll set all my rules and everything like that. But this kind of stuff, you jam all 4 of the other low price guys that would never end up in a lineup that you would never crunch this lineup most likely with a guy like Hollister with $700 left. They're going to put in Agnew. They're going to put in Evans. They're going to, you know what I mean? Like you're never going to get a lineup like this. So hand building sometimes and just going down a little bit to P. Ryan or something, you're going to get a lot of lineups that no one else will have. And still high upside.
And calling out that part about the salary, right? Make sure you're leaving some money on the table if you want to solo. Like, it's just not going to work if you max out every single night. Yeah. Everybody's trying to spend all their salary to jam in the best possible players. You need to think in terms of who's going to score the most points.
Unless you're going with a 1% guy or something.
Right.
So let's put Chenault in, and that leaves us 3,700. This is a little bit more of a balanced lineup here. I know that Lambeau's not playing, but whoever that guy may be, you got a kicker, you got defense, figure it out from there. Okay, so I think it's easy to say that Tyler Boyd's going to be the easiest And in my opinion, if he's not the most popular captain, I mean, I know that Jamar Chase and Mixon are are kind of more popular plays, but I think that Tyler Boyd at captain is just such a solid play.
Yeah.
So let's do this. We'll do Trevor Lawrence here in a minute. We'll do Burrow. We'll do some of these guys. But let's put in like Chenault, or let's put in DJ Chark, or one of these guys at captain, like a 2-4. You know, we'll put let's put Chenault at captain and see what happens. Let's do it. It's absolutely risky, and I'm not going to do a ton of these. He's probably going to be like 3% owned in the captain, but you never know. Let's do it. That leaves us with a ton of salary, so we can do both. We can do everybody we want here almost. So, do we want to do both quarterbacks?
Yeah, let's do both quarterbacks, and let's see if we can get James Robinson.
I think James Robinson might be the odd man out on a lot of these lineups. People just aren't going to be able to afford him. All right, can we do Jamar Chase? No, we can't.
No, you can do Tyler Boyd.
Tyler Boyd, of course, 1,300, and
Jacob Hollister.
We're right back in the same area. We're right back in the Jamal Agnew, Hollister, Mike Thomas, Auden Tate area.
Yeah, I don't hate it. And this is actually a decent build to get different. And I mean, look, so what happens if you come off Robinson and go to Chase?
Let's see. I think we'll be okay. We can go down to Auden Tate probably. Yeah. Yep. Auden Tate. So that's a lot of wide receivers, but we're in the same boat as we were before, the same explanation. So let's do this. Let's come off of Trevor Lawrence. Let's go with James Robinson. Let's go with Carlos Hyde. There's our 3 Jaguars. Now we can fit in whoever the hell else we want here. We could fit in Jamar Chase. We could fit in Joe Mixon. I know that this is this is not a good, necessarily on paper, a good lineup. You got 3 running backs. That's probably not a good option. But where would you go here?
Go to Hollister from Hyde?
Yeah. Man, you just love Hollister, huh?
Well, now throw in Chase. I don't know if it's going to be
7,900. What does that get us?
Yeah, that's Boyd.
Wow. There you go. There's a 3-3 with Chenault at captain.
Bro, that's, again, I don't hate that. And this kind of, I really like that lineup, actually.
Taking another photo. All right, where do we go next? You want to go to Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, let's do some Trevor Lawrence. And then I want to do a Joe Mixon build.
Yeah, he'll be
Joe Mixon and Joe Burrow.
Yeah. All right, so Trevor Lawrence, captain. Let's just automatically jam in 2 of his wide receivers. Let's do this. Let's go Chenault and Jones. We haven't done that combo yet.
Yes.
So, where are we going here?
Can we do, what happens if we do Joe and Tyler? And Joe Burrow. Yeah, there we go. Oh, we can't do Tyler.
Yeah.
Can we?
We damn sure can.
Who at 200 we like?
Sample.
Sure.
Drew Sample. You could do Luke Farrell for Jacksonville. I don't like that. I'd rather do Sample.
Yeah, I'd rather do Sample.
It's a little tight. I'd rather go with Auden Tate or Mike Thomas, but not bad.
So, okay, I know we don't have much Marvin Jones, but can you go from him to Shark?
Yeah, and then we'll come off with Sample.
Yeah. It's probably going to be Jacob Hollister.
Dude, this happens every time. There's that one group, there's that one area, right now it's between 1,000 and 1,700 that we keep landing in. We can't quite get Carlos Hyde. Every time. We can't get Carlos Hyde because we're just trying to jam it in too much.
Yep, so, and see, we're 40 minutes into the show. I'm already wrong about the value guy, right? I thought it was going to be Carlos Hyde that we were going to need to jam in, but it
might not be.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't feel great about it, but Jacob Hollister is he's falling in, but him and Auden Tate seem to be the 2 that are falling in these lineups. How much do we have left right now?
1,600.
Oh, yeah. So
you can go Chris Evans. You can go Captain America here.
Yeah,
you
Jacob
could.
Hollister, your guy Auden Tate,
I would go. I personally would just leave salary, and I'd go like Mike Thomas or Auden Tate. That would be considering you got Joe Burrow. You put two receivers with him.
You can just leave Drew Sample in if you're comfortable.
Or Drew Sample.
Like, doesn't matter. Yeah.
So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to build this lineup. This will be my core, and I'll put in like 4 or 5 different value guys, and then I'll take out Chark, and I'll put in Chenault, and then I'll do the same exact thing, and I'll just keep doing this over and over again until I have like 100-something plus lineups, and until I'm blue in the face. I don't recommend it, but I'm telling you what I do because it really helps. All right, so let's do one more captain. Or do you got any? You got a crazy ass captain we can throw in?
Dan Arnold.
There's your tight ends.
Yeah, damn it. We should just segment this and call it the tight end. The tight end segment.
Yeah, exactly. Where's he at? Dan Arnold. Hey Arnold.
All right, Trevor.
Joey.
Yeah, Chase. Jones. Hollister.
2600.
No. Nice. 20. Jesus.
Oh, that's a shitload. Chris Manhurts. No, I'm not doing that. Look who it is.
Carlos Hyde.
Yes. All right.
We made it. We got to Carlos Hyde.
Okay.
So look, I think this line's going to be chalkier than people would expect it to be because because here's the thing, because there's so few people that are excuse me, there's so few low price guys at Carlos Hyde's price that people are going to be comfortable playing, that if they throw Dan Arnold and captain and they just jam in the next 4 top price players, that you're probably going to end up landing on Carlos Hyde. You know what I mean?
Let's see. Let's just optimize with Arnold. Let's see what happens. Pretty damn close. I mean, not quite, but it was kind of close.
I mean,
That's another good option there.
I actually kind of like that lineup too. Again, I probably will not do any Dan Arnold captains tomorrow night. Let's just be very clear here.
You know what I'm going to do tomorrow night? Not a lot, but I'm definitely going to do it. I don't care. Dude, I'm not scared at all.
Dude, how did Max Williams do on Sunday?
He didn't do very good. I think he got a couple passes.
Okay. Well, I don't know. The Cardinals don't use tight ends, so I don't know.
So I'm going to fade Lawrence. We're going to go James Robinson. I'm going to go...
JJ.
I'm actually going to go Visca. And then we're going to go Jamar. And it leaves us 6,200. That gets us a defense, or here we go. You're gonna love this. Tight ends, baby.
You just hate money, don't you?
I hate money, but hey, dude.
Hey, no, this
is a milli maker, just a burn your money type thing.
Yeah, you enter the $15 and then just check after the game. Like if you don't see Uzuma getting a touchdown in the game, you just know not to check the milli.
Just don't even check. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so last one, unless do you have one? Okay,
Joe Mixon.
Let me do this first, and then we'll do a Joe Mixon as our last lineup. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna put Jamar Chase at captain, and we're gonna fade. We're gonna fade quarterbacks.
Okay.
I don't recommend it, but let's just see how it works. Let's just see how we're doing here. If it's even worth trying. So we got to go with running backs then. We got to go with Mixon, James Robinson. We're assuming Jamar Chase has like 3 or 4 receptions and 2 touchdowns, and and Joey B just doesn't need to do a whole lot in the second half. So what does that mean? We're probably going to want Visca. Well, you know what? Hang on, let me just put in Trevor Lawrence. I feel better about that. I'm not gonna do any no quarterback lineups. It's just not smart.
Well, I mean, that's why we're building though, right? Like it would have worked on probably the Green Bay slate.
Yeah.
Not having Aaron Rodgers or Jimmy G. Like you might have been able to get a build there, but this just may not.
So Auden Tate, who cares? I know we don't have Joey B, but Auden Tate at $400. I like we said, he doesn't need 16 receptions. 3,500 defense. It's just
put him in. Put him in,
dude. $2,500 left on the table.
I was saying put the defense in. I mean, why not, man? I mean, it's contrarian as hell. This is also a bullshit Millie Maker lineup,
That
right? If
is
Jamar Chase catches 2 touchdowns for, 2 receptions, 2 touchdowns, and 190 yards, it could be enough.
Maybe Joe Burrow has 14 interceptions and 13 fumbles or something, and he just doesn't make it.
He could actually get sacked like 9 times. Like, yeah. I don't want to put that past this offensive line. So
all right, so look, we're having fun. Don't do a 150 lineup train with this. We obviously
please don't play this lineup and then send us hate mail. Like we know this is not good. Like don't do that.
You're burning money if you play this lineup, but you're doing it because it's crazy and it could work. It's showdown. Anything can happen. All right, so
we're trying to feel out builds.
Yeah. These aren't going to be my final builds. The ones you saw me take photos of, I might do it, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, we'll see what ownership comes in at. All right, let's throw in Joe. Mixon.
Joe, okay. All right, so what do you want to do now?
Tyler Boyd.
Okay, that's easy.
Let's go Trevor, Shark, Visca.
1,900.
So Carlos Hyde or Jacob Hollister. Those are the 2 guys.
Yeah, so 2-4.
That's actually not terrible, man. I kind of like that.
It's not bad. We're going to do a lot of messing around over the next day, leading up until lock. But I like building tonight was so much more fun than building for that Cowboys-Philly game. This reminds me of the other night. What was it? The Green Bay game? I get them all mixed up. But there was a slate, like 2 slates ago, where it was just like, man, this is a lot of fun to build.
Yeah, man. I like building for this slate. It's going to be interesting for sure.
So let's do a quick little wrap up here, all right? So studs for Cincy. Burrow, Mixon, Boyd, Chase, obviously. My favorite captain out of those is Tyler Boyd because of his price. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, man. Tyler Boyd's going to be in the optimal spot to have a high ceiling game at a low price. I mean, he's initially projected for more than Jamar Chase, so that's interesting.
So value for Cincy. Auden Tate, Mike Thomas, Chris Evans, Uzoma at 4K. I don't know if that's value, but Drew Sample $200 and P Ryan $800. I think you should try to mix in these guys, but my favorite is Auden Tate, followed by Mike Thomas at $600. You just can't go wrong with Auden Tate as the number 3 guy at this point. He's the number 3 guy. He's getting almost 60% of the snaps. You don't need a whole lot from him. My opinion is he's the guy that catches the touchdown. He's the Kyle Uswich of this week, either him or Mike Thomas. So going to the other side of the ball, just a quick wrap up. Studs, Trevor Lawrence, James Robinson, Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, and DJ Chark. Fit one of the 3 wide receivers in. Don't worry about any other of the other wide receivers from Jacksonville. Focus in on 3 of these guys, but try to fit at least 1, maybe 2. I'm not going to have a single lineup without one of these 3 guys. Value, Carlos Hyde, Dan Arnold, he's kind of mid-range value. And, we got Jacob Hollister for Ellie over here. He's going to have 96% Jacob Hollister tomorrow night out of 150 lineups. All right, so anything else to add when it comes to final thoughts on roster construction? You're going to try to force in certain builds, 3-3s, 4-2s. What do you think?
Yeah, so from a roster construction perspective, I think it's very important to avoid 3-3s tomorrow night. I think you're going to get easy leverage by building with 4-2, 2-4 stacks, right? And just shying away from kind of the balanced approach. It's probably going to go one way or the other, and I think you need to build with that in mind, so I'll be heavy 4-2.
Final score prediction.
Oh, shit. 34-19 Bengals.
27-24 Jaguars. See you guys later. Mic drop.